The scene in A Precious Keepsake begins with a quiet but tender moment of routine care, establishing the emotional center of the story and foregrounding themes of chosen family, affirmation, and the power of small gestures. Slimthick Vic writes yet another encouraging note for Anna, who is preparing for school, revealing that this is not a one-time act, but a daily ritual that structures their relationship. This image of steady, everyday care resonates deeply in LGBTQ culture because it reflects a form of emotional labor and intentionality often missing from queer characters in media. By playfully tucking the note into Anna's backpack and sending her off with a smile, Vic models what supportive adults, mentors, or older friends can mean for younger people discovering themselves in a world that can be hostile or indifferent. This ritual of notes speaks to the importance of affirmation for LGBTQ youth, who statistically experience more isolation and self-doubt than their peers. The notes can be read as literal stand-ins for the kind of affirming language that LGBTQ people crave and often save: text messages, handwritten notes, or online comments, as reminders of their worth. Later in the scene, Vic's search for a lost phone charger leads to the discovery of Anna's private stash of every note Vic has ever written. This is a powerful reversal. Vic thought she was doing something small, but to Anna, these notes have become treasured keepsakes, a symbolic lifeline. This parallels the way many LGBTQ people hold on to tokens from supportive figures: a teacher's encouraging comment, a rainbow pin, a friend's handwritten letter, as validation of their identity and a counterweight to the messages of shame or erasure they may encounter elsewhere. When Anna explains why she kept the notes, the film draws a line between material keepsakes and emotional security. She says she has few keepsakes and worries about losing Vic someday. This is strikingly familiar in queer contexts because LGBTQ people often experience disrupted or fragile support networks. Mentors, friends, or found family members may be transient due to moving, rejection, or safety concerns. In this way, Anna's drawer of notes becomes a metaphor for building one's own archive of belonging and resilience. Vic's reaction, being deeply moved rather than irritated, underlines another aspect of healthy LGBTQ representation. Rather than making the scene about shame, secrecy, or intrusion, the moment pivots toward mutual vulnerability and connection. In comforting Anna and assuring her that she's not going anywhere, Vic embodies the ideal of steadfast support, the kind of adult figure LGBTQ youth desperately need. Their emotional embrace can be read not as romantic but as familial, platonic, or mentorship-based affection, showing that media can depict intense female-female closeness without defaulting to sexualization. This is important because it fights the stereotype that every bond between women must be sexual or inappropriate, instead illustrating that two women or femme-identifying people can share intimacy rooted in trust, support, and shared history. In connecting this scene to broader LGBTQ culture, one can see parallels in the concept of chosen family, a long-standing theme in queer life where people assemble nurturing networks outside traditional blood ties. Vic is a stand-in for such a supportive figure, and Anna, in keeping the notes, reflects the gratitude and need for permanence that chosen family members often feel. This underscores how lesbian, bisexual, and queer women may relate to each other intergenerationally, older mentors or peers guiding younger ones through identity development. The scene also resonates with women generally because it captures the universal hunger for recognition and validation, particularly in societies where female labor and emotional needs are often invisible. Many women, regardless of orientation, understand the experience of holding on to small tokens of care as proof that they matter to someone. Moreover, the film highlights an under-acknowledged tension in how society perceives two girls or women in a close relationship. Historically, female friendships were allowed a degree of intimacy denied to men's friendships, but in the modern era, this intimacy is often scrutinized, sexualized, or suspected of being more than platonic. The backlash against women's same-gender closeness reveals both sexism and homophobia at work. Society often hates seeing two girls in love, or even just in deep solidarity, because it disrupts heteronormative expectations and male entitlement to female affection. The visual of two women embracing tenderly can be read as threatening to patriarchal structures that presume women exist for men's attention. By showing Vic and Anna in an embrace without male intervention, the film gestures at the autonomy of female affection and support systems. It also mirrors the way LGBTQ audiences often code or reclaim scenes of female intimacy in mainstream media, seeing reflections of their own experiences even when the text is ambiguous. The film, in this SFW interpretation, provides an opportunity to talk about the difference between healthy mentorship and exploitative dynamics. In real life, LGBTQ youth benefit enormously from affirming adults, but also need clear boundaries to feel safe. Precious Keepsake thus can be read as a cautionary tale about the intensity of gratitude and attachment that can form in these relationships, and the responsibility of the supportive adult to maintain appropriate boundaries. This meta-reading reinforces the idea that care does not have to slip into impropriety to be meaningful. From a cultural perspective, the act of writing notes every day parallels the ways queer people build culture through ephemera. Zines, letters, journals, and online posts, creating an archive of their existence. The stash of notes is a microcosm of queer history itself. Small, personal artifacts saved against erasure. In this way, the film comments on how marginalized people preserve their narratives when mainstream society fails to honor them. The emotional climax, in which Anna explains the note's meaning and Vic reassures her, becomes an allegory for intergenerational dialogue within queer communities. Younger people finding solace in older ones, and older ones realizing their gestures matter profoundly. The embrace, then, is a symbolic closing of the loop, affirmation received and returned, a cycle of care. Addressing the questions directly, lesbian audiences might relate to Anna's quiet longing for connection and Vic's desire to nurture and protect, because many have experienced both roles at different stages of life. Women more broadly can relate to the emotional labor and the search for someone to see and affirm them. Society's discomfort with two girls or women in love, or even just in non-sexual intimacy, arises from deep-rooted cultural biases. Heteronormativity insists that women's value lies in relation to men. When women prioritize each other even platonically, it undermines this paradigm. Furthermore, lesbian love challenges the idea that female sexuality exists only for male consumption. This is why depictions of lesbians are often either fetishized for male viewers or suppressed entirely. Both reactions spring from the same patriarchal root. In conclusion, the precious keepsake scene, handled in a SFW and thoughtful manner, becomes a rich case study in the themes of chosen family, emotional affirmation, and the politics of female closeness in LGBTQ culture. By centering on the ritual of note writing, the emotional revelation of the keepsake stash, and the resulting embrace, the film foregrounds the power of small daily gestures to forge identity and belonging. It also opens a space for conversations about boundaries, mentorship, and representation, showing how two women can be central to each other's emotional lives without defaulting to harmful stereotypes. For LGBTQ audiences, the scene affirms that their bonds, keepsakes, and histories matter. For women generally, it validates the importance of emotional labor and the enduring need for connection. And for society at large, it poses a quiet but radical challenge to let women's relationships with each other be seen on their own terms. Complex, layered, affectionate, and autonomous, without shame or voyeurism. In doing so, it models a vision of intimacy and care that is both aspirational and deeply rooted in real queer experience. This SFW reading keeps the focus on emotional truth rather than sensationalism, illustrating how cinema can handle sensitive topics responsibly and still resonate with LGBTQ culture at a profound level.